My name is Grant Ellison, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. I'm 37, work as an accountant at Davidson and Associates here in Houston, and I've been married to Lora for 8 years. She's a dental hygienist with perfect teeth, perfect hair, and what I thought was a perfect heart. Turns out, I was wrong about that last part. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The night everything changed started like any other Saturday. Lora had dragged me to another one of her coworker parties. I hate these things. A bunch of dental office drama queens getting drunk and gossiping about patients. But Lora insisted we go, batting her eyelashes and promising we'd leave early. "Come on, Grant," she'd said, adjusting her low-cut dress in the mirror. "Sabrina's parties are always fun. Besides, Wade's going to be there, and you two should get to know each other better." Wade Fuller, Lora's new coworker at the dental clinic. 28 years old, gym rat physique, drives a BMW he definitely can't afford on a dental assistant's salary. Every time Lora mentioned him, which was increasingly often, she got this little sparkle in her eyes that made my stomach turn. The party was at Sabrina's house, a sprawling ranch-style place with an open floor plan and a pool out back. By 9 p.m., the place was packed with drunk dental workers and their unfortunate spouses. I nursed a beer in the corner, watching Lora work the room like she was running for mayor. That's when I saw them. Lora and Wade, standing way too close by the kitchen island. His hand was on her lower back, fingers spread possessively. She was laughing at something he'd whispered in her ear, her face flushed with alcohol and something else I didn't want to acknowledge. I moved closer, pretending to grab another beer from the cooler. That's when I heard it. "God, Wade, you're terrible," Lora giggled, swaying slightly. "What if Grant sees us?" "Relax, babe. Your husband's too busy counting imaginary numbers in his head to notice anything real happening around him." They both laughed. "Speaking of Grant," Lora continued, her voice dropping to what she probably thought was a whisper, "I have news." Wade raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? I'm pregnant." The beer bottle slipped from my hand, but I caught it before it hit the floor. Pregnant. We'd been trying for 3 years. 3 years of fertility doctors, ovulation charts, and scheduled romance that felt more like a medical procedure. "Holy shit, really?" Wade's grin was predatory. "When did you find out?" "Yesterday. I haven't told Grant yet." She paused, taking a long sip of her wine. "The timing's perfect, actually. He'll never suspect it's not his." The world tilted sideways. I gripped the counter to steady myself. "You sure about the timing?" Wade asked. "Positive. Remember that weekend Grant went to that boring accounting conference in Dallas? We spent the whole time in your apartment." She giggled again. "My loser husband will be paying for our baby for the next 18 years, and he'll never know the difference." Wade pulled her closer. "What about when the kid comes out looking like me?" "Babies change. Besides, Grant's so desperate to be a father, he'll see what he wants to see." I backed away slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. The party continued around me, laughter, music, the splash of someone jumping in the pool, but all I could hear was the sound of my marriage imploding. I found myself in Sabrina's guest bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Average height, thinning brown hair, glasses that had been out of style for 5 years. Next to Wade's magazine cover looks, I was invisible. No wonder Lora had upgraded. But here's the thing about being an accountant. You learn to pay attention to details. Numbers don't lie, even when people do. And I was about to become very good at auditing my own life. I splashed cold water on my face and walked back out to find Lora. She was by the pool now, Wade's arm around her waist like they were posing for a couple's photo. When she saw me approaching, she quickly stepped away from him. "Grant, there you are. I was just telling Wade about your promotion at work." "Was that before or after you told him about the baby?" I asked quietly. Her face went white. Wade suddenly found his beer very interesting. "What, baby?" she stammered. "I don't know what you're talking about." I stared at her for a long moment. 8 years of marriage, and she was going to lie right to my face. The old Grant would have caused a scene, demanded answers, probably ended up looking like the jealous fool. But the new Grant, the one born in that moment, had a different plan. "My mistake," I said with a smile. "Must have misheard something. You know how loud these parties get." Relief flooded her face. "Exactly. Too much noise, too much alcohol. People say all kinds of crazy things." "They sure do," I agreed. "Wade, good seeing you again. Lora, ready to head home?" She nodded eagerly, probably wanting to get me away before I misheard anything else. We said our goodbyes and walked to the car in silence. Lora chattered nervously about the party during the drive home, but I wasn't listening. I was thinking about numbers, timelines, and evidence. Because here's what Lora didn't know about her boring accountant husband. I'd just been promoted to senior auditor, and my first case was going to be a doozy. Monday morning, I sat in my cubicle at Davidson and Associates, staring at a spreadsheet that might as well have been written in hieroglyphics. My mind was elsewhere, running calculations of a different sort. Lora said she was pregnant. The timing of Wade's conference weekend. The way she'd been acting lately. Secretive phone calls, new clothes, suddenly interested in prenatal yoga classes that seemed to happen at very convenient times. "Ellison, you look like someone ran over your dog," said my boss, Mr. Daly, appearing at my desk with his usual coffee-stained tie and perpetually harried expression. "Just tired, sir. Late night." "Well, shake it off. I need you to handle the Morrison Industries audit. They're claiming some irregularities in their expense reports." He dropped a thick folder on my desk. "Think you can find the truth in all those numbers?" "Numbers don't lie, Mr. Daly. People do." He chuckled. "Exactly why you're perfect for this job. Get to it." If only he knew what audit I was really working on. That evening, I came home to find Lora in the kitchen, looking pale and queasy. She was nibbling on saltine crackers, a detail that would have thrilled me a week ago. Now it just felt like evidence. "How are you feeling?" I asked, setting down my briefcase. "Oh, just a little stomach bug. Must be something I ate at the party." She avoided my eyes, focusing intently on her crackers. "Maybe you should see a doctor. You know, just to be safe." Her head snapped up. "A doctor? Why would I need to see a doctor for a stomach bug?" "You're right. Probably nothing." I opened the refrigerator, pretending to look for something to eat. "By the way, I was thinking about that conference in Dallas. When was that again?" "Conference?" Her voice pitched higher. "Which conference?" "The one I went to last month, the Accounting Standards Seminar. I'm trying to remember the exact dates for my expense report." "Oh, I don't really remember. Why don't you check your calendar?" Interesting. The woman who remembered every anniversary, birthday, and dental appointment suddenly couldn't recall a weekend where she'd been alone, or rather, where she thought she'd been alone. "You're right. I'll check." I grabbed an apple and headed toward my home office. "I'll be working late tonight. Big audit at work." "Another audit?" She sounded nervous. "What kind of audit?" "The kind where someone's been cooking the books. But don't worry, I always find the truth eventually." Over the next 2 weeks, I became a man obsessed. Not with revenge, not yet, but with facts. I installed a discrete app on our shared computer that tracked browser history. I started paying closer attention to Lora's phone habits, her schedule, her sudden interest in maternity websites. The evidence piled up like a damning financial statement. Deleted text messages at exactly the times Wade would be on break at the clinic. A pregnancy test hidden in the bathroom trash, dated for the day after the party. An appointment card for Dr. Nguyen's OB-GYN practice, scheduled for the following week. but the most damning evidence came from our insurance company. I called them, claiming I wanted to understand our maternity coverage options. The helpful representative informed me that someone had already called to inquire about adding a domestic partner to our policy. A domestic partner? I asked. Yes, sir. The caller asked about covering a Mr. Wade Fuller. Is that someone you'd like to add to your plan? My hand tightened on the phone. No, that won't be necessary. That night, I lay in bed next to my wife, listening to her breathe. She'd told me she loved me before falling asleep, the same words she'd said every night for 8 years. But now they sounded like a recording, empty and rehearsed. I stared at the ceiling and made my decision. If Lora wanted to play games with numbers, I'd show her what a real accountant could do. But first, I needed irrefutable proof, and I knew exactly how to get it. The next morning, after Lora left for work, I called Dr. Nguyen's office. Hi, this is Grant Ellison. My wife Lora has an appointment with Dr. Nguyen next week, and I wanted to discuss some questions about genetic testing. Of course, Mr. Ellison. Dr. Nguyen always recommends comprehensive prenatal screening. We can discuss paternity confirmation testing when you come in. Paternity confirmation? It's becoming quite common, actually. Many couples want to be absolutely certain, especially when there are any questions about timing or conception dates. Perfect. I'd like to schedule that as part of the standard screening. My wife doesn't need to know it's anything more than routine prenatal care. Absolutely. We'll include it in the comprehensive panel. The results will be available in about a week. I hung up the phone and opened my laptop. Time to start moving money around. Legally, of course. I wasn't about to give Lora any ammunition to use against me later. But there were ways to protect assets, to ensure that when the truth came out, I wouldn't be left holding the bag for someone else's mistake. I transferred our joint savings into a separate account. Still joint, but requiring both signatures for withdrawals. I updated the beneficiaries on my life insurance and 401k. I even started documenting every conversation, every suspicious behavior, every lie. Because here's what Lora didn't understand about audits. They're not just about finding problems. They're about building an ironclad case that can't be disputed or dismissed. And by the time I was done, there would be no question about who was telling the truth and who was living a lie. The appointment was scheduled for Thursday. 3 more days until I had the numbers that would change everything. 3 more days of pretending to be the naive husband while I built my case. Numbers don't lie, but people do, and I was about to prove it in the most devastating way possible. Thursday arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. Lora had been nervous all week, claiming it was just normal anxiety about her first prenatal appointment. She'd asked me to come with her, playing the role of the excited, expectant mother. "I'm so glad you can be there for this," she said in the car, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "It means everything to me that we're doing this together." Together. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Dr. Nguyen's office was exactly what you'd expect. Soft lighting, soothing music, and magazines about pregnancy and parenting scattered across every surface. We sat in the waiting room, Lora fidgeting with her purse, while I pretended to read an article about college savings plans. "Lora Ellison?" a nurse called from the doorway. We followed her back to an examination room where Dr. Nguyen was waiting. She was a small, efficient woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Congratulations," she said, shaking both our hands. "Based on your last menstrual period, you're about 8 weeks along. How are you feeling?" "A little nauseous, but okay," Lora replied, settling onto the examination table. "That's completely normal. Now, I understand you want comprehensive prenatal screening?" I nodded. "We want to be thorough. Check for everything." "Excellent. We'll do a full genetic panel including tests for chromosomal abnormalities, genetic disorders, and paternity confirmation." Lora's head whipped toward me. "Paternity confirmation? Why would we need that?" Dr. Nguyen looked between us. It's becoming standard practice. Many couples want the peace of mind, especially when conception timing is uncertain. But we know when we conceived, Lora said, her voice rising slightly. We've been trying for years. Of course, Dr. Nguyen said smoothly. But the test is included in the comprehensive panel anyway. There's no additional cost or risk. I watched Laura's face carefully. She was trying to look confused rather than panicked, but I could see the fear in her eyes. If it's standard, then I guess it's fine. The appointment proceeded normally. Lab draws, urine samples, discussions about prenatal vitamins and diet. Lora played her part perfectly, asking all the right questions about due dates and delivery options. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands shook slightly when she thought I wasn't looking. The results will be available in about a week, Dr. Nguyen said as we prepared to leave. We'll call you with everything at once. In the car, Lora was unusually quiet. Finally, she spoke. I can't believe they do paternity tests as part of routine screening now. Seems kind of insulting, doesn't it? Like they don't trust married couples. I suppose they've seen enough surprises over the years, I replied. Better to be safe than sorry. That weekend was torture. Lora tried to act normal, chattering about baby names and nursery colors, but every conversation felt forced. I played along, even went with her to look at cribs at Babies Russ, all while knowing that in a few days, our entire charade would come crashing down. The call came on Tuesday afternoon. I was at work reviewing the Morrison Industries audit when my phone rang. Mr. Ellison, this is Dr. Nguyen's office. Your wife's test results are in. Could you and Mrs. Ellison come in this afternoon to discuss them? Is everything okay with the baby? The baby is fine, but there are some results we need to discuss in person. I knew. Even though I'd expected it, even though I'd prepared for it, hearing the confirmation felt like a punch to the gut. We'll be there at 4. I called Lora at work. Dr. Nguyen wants to see us this afternoon. The test results are in. Oh God, Grant, what if something's wrong? What if there's something wrong with the baby? Her panic sounded so genuine that for a moment I almost believed she was worried about genetic defects rather than genetic parentage. Almost. I'm sure everything's fine. These appointments are probably just routine. But we both knew they weren't. Dr. Nguyen's office felt different this time. Smaller, more suffocating. We sat across from her desk while she reviewed a thick file of test results. The good news is that all the genetic screening came back normal, she began. No chromosomal abnormalities, no genetic disorders. The baby appears to be perfectly healthy. Lora exhaled in relief. Thank God. So everything's okay? Dr. Nguyen looked at me, then back at Lora. There is one result that's unusual. The paternity test shows that Mr. Ellison is not the biological father of this baby. The silence in the room was deafening. I watched Laura's face cycle through shock, denial, and finally a kind of desperate calculation. That's impossible, she said finally. There must be a mistake. Grant is the only man I've been with. Dr. Nguyen consulted her notes. The test is 99.9% accurate. I'm sorry, but there's no mistake. Lora turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Grant, you have to believe me. I don't know how this happened. Maybe the lab mixed up the samples or... Stop! The word came out harder than I'd intended. Just stop lying. She froze. What? I heard you at Sabrina's party. You and Wade, talking about the baby, about how I'd never know the difference. I pulled out my phone and showed her the recording app I'd been using. I've been documenting everything for weeks. The deleted texts, the insurance calls, the way you've been acting. Her face crumpled. Grant, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you've been screwing your coworker while I was at work? How you planned to let me raise another man's child? How you called me a loser to your friends? Dr. Nguyen cleared her throat uncomfortably. Perhaps you two should discuss this privately. No, I said, standing up. We're done here. Thank you for the test, doctor. It's exactly what I needed. I walked out, leaving Lora sobbing in the chair behind me. She caught up to me in the parking lot, grabbing my arm. "Grant, wait. We can work this out. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. I love you, not him." I turned to face her. "You love me? You love me so much that you let another man get you pregnant and then plan to trick me into paying for it?" It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I got into my car. "Go home, Lora. Pack your things. I want you out by the weekend." "You can't just throw me out. This is my house too." I started the engine. "Actually, if you check the deed, you'll find that the house is in my name only. We bought it before we were married, remember? You insisted we keep our finances separate back then. Funny how that works out." Her face went white. "Grant, please. I'm pregnant. You need Wade. He's the father. He can take care of you now." I drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I watched her collapse onto the hood of her car, shoulders shaking with sobs. But I wasn't done, not even close. This was just the beginning of Lora's education in what happens when you try to cheat an accountant. She wanted to play games with numbers. I was about to show her what a real audit looked like. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to my lawyer's office. Margaret Harper was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who specialized in family law and had a reputation for being ruthless when necessary. "So let me get this straight," she said, after I'd laid out the whole story. "Your wife is pregnant by another man, planned to deceive you about paternity, and you have evidence of all of this? Recorded conversations, DNA test results, documentation of her suspicious behavior, and proof that she tried to add her lover to our insurance policy." I slid a thick folder across her desk. Margaret flipped through the documents, nodding approvingly. "This is very thorough, Grant. Very thorough indeed. What outcome are you looking for?" "I want her out of my house, out of my life, and I want to make sure I have no legal or financial responsibility for that baby." "That's all achievable. Texas law allows you to disclaim paternity when you have proof like this. We can file the paperwork immediately." She paused. "What about your mutual friends? Your social circle?" I thought about Sabrina, about the other couples we'd socialized with over the years. Most of them are really her friends, but I want them to know the truth. Be careful there. You don't want to open yourself up to defamation claims. What if I just let the truth speak for itself? Margaret smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. The truth has a way of getting around, doesn't it? When I got home, Lora was waiting in the living room with 2 suitcases. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked like she hadn't slept. "I packed some things," she said quietly. "But Grant, we need to talk about this. Really talk." "What's to talk about? You cheated, you lied, you got pregnant by another man. Seems pretty straightforward to me." "It's not that simple. Wade and it just happened. I never meant for it to go this far." "How far did you mean for it to go? Just closeness? Just getting pregnant? Or were you planning to leave me anyway once the baby was born and you didn't need my financial support anymore?" She flinched. I wasn't thinking about any of that." "No, you weren't thinking. That's the problem." I sat down across from her. "Tell me something, Lora. When you found out you were pregnant, were you even a little bit sad that it wasn't mine? After 3 years of trying, after all those doctors and treatments and hope, were you disappointed at all that you'd finally gotten pregnant and it was with someone else?" Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't answer. "That's what I thought." I stood up. "My lawyer is filing papers to disclaim paternity. You and Wade are on your own." "Wade doesn't want the baby," she whispered. That stopped me cold. "What?" "When I told him about the pregnancy, he said it was my problem. He said he's not ready to be a father, that he wants me to take care of it." "Take care of it?" "Get rid of it. He offered to pay for the procedure." For a moment, I felt a flicker of something that might have been sympathy. Then I remembered her laughing at Sabrina's party, calling me a loser, planning to deceive me for 18 years. That's between you and him. It's not my problem anymore. She looked up at me with desperate eyes. Grant, I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm scared. I don't have anywhere to go. I can't afford to have a baby on my own, and Wade won't even talk to me now. You should have thought about that before you decided to blow up our marriage. Please, I'm begging you. Just let me stay until I figure something out. I almost wavered. 8 years of marriage, of shared history, of love that had once been real. But then I remembered her voice at the party. My loser husband will be paying for our baby. You have until Sunday. After that, I'm changing the locks. She nodded miserably and picked up her suitcases. Where am I supposed to go? Call Sabrina. I'm sure she'll have some great advice about how to handle this situation. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I called Sabrina myself. Grant? Is everything okay? Lora seemed really upset when she called. Did she tell you why she was upset? She said you two were having some problems, but she didn't go into details. Let me fill you in on the details, Sabrina. Lora is pregnant. The baby isn't mine. She's been having an affair with Wade from her office, and she planned to let me raise his child without ever telling me the truth. Silence on the other end of the line. I have DNA test results, recorded conversations, and documentation going back weeks. So when she calls you crying about how mean I'm being, you'll know the whole story. Grant, I had no idea. Didn't you? You were standing right there when she told Wade that her loser husband would be paying for their baby. You laughed about it. More silence. I thought she was just, you know how Lora talks when she's drunk. I didn't think she was serious. She was serious enough to get pregnant by him. I hung up before she could respond. Let her chew on that for a while. By tomorrow, everyone in their social circle would know the truth. Lora wanted to play games. I was about to show her what it felt like to lose. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Wade Fuller was about to learn that actions have consequences. And Lora was about to discover that humiliating your husband in public comes with a very high price. The real reckoning was just beginning. Sunday came faster than I expected. Lora had been staying at Sabrina's, calling me twice a day to beg for more time, more chances, more understanding. I'd stopped answering after the first few calls. My lawyer had filed all the necessary paperwork, and I'd spent the weekend documenting everything in our house that belonged to me, which was most of it. At exactly 6 p.m., there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find not just Lora, but Wade and Sabrina as well. Wade looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sabrina looked angry. Lora just looked desperate. We need to talk, Sabrina announced, pushing past me into the living room. Actually, we don't, I replied, but I let them in anyway. This was going to be interesting. Wade finally spoke up. Look, man, I know this is messed up, but you're being unreasonable. Lora's pregnant and scared, and you're throwing her out on the street. I stared at him. I'm being unreasonable? You got my wife pregnant, and I'm the unreasonable one? It takes 2 people to make a baby, Sabrina interjected. Lora made a mistake, but that doesn't mean you get to destroy her life. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just refusing to clean up the mess you people made. Lora stepped forward, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. Grant, I know you're angry. You have every right to be angry. But this baby is innocent. It doesn't deserve to be punished for my mistakes. You're right. The baby is innocent. That's why it deserves to be raised by its actual father. I looked directly at Wade. That would be you. Wade's face went red. I never said I wanted to be a father. This wasn't planned. Neither was finding out my wife was cheating on me. But here we are. You can't just abandon a pregnant woman, Sabrina said. What kind of man does that? The kind of man who refuses to be played for a fool. I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. Since you're all here, let me show you something. I spread out printouts of text messages, phone records, and credit card statements across the coffee table. These are Wade's texts to Lora over the past 2 months. Want me to read some of them out loud? Wade lunged forward. Those are private. Nothing's private when you're screwing another man's wife. I picked up one of the printouts. Here's a good one from 3 weeks ago. Can't wait to get you alone again. Grant's such a clueless idiot. I can't believe he hasn't figured it out yet. Lora's face went white. Grant, don't. Oh, but this one's even better. From Wade to Lora last Tuesday. If you think I'm going to play daddy to some kid, you're crazy. I told you to handle this before it became a problem. Sabrina looked at Wade with disgust. You told her to get an abortion? I told her to be realistic, Wade snapped. I'm 28 years old. I'm not ready for kids, especially not with someone else's wife. But you were ready to sleep with someone else's wife, I pointed out. That's different. How is that different? Wade's composure finally cracked. Because it was just closeness, okay? It didn't mean anything. It was just fun. The silence that followed was deafening. Lora stared at Wade like she was seeing him for the first time. Sabrina shook her head in disgust, and I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Just closeness, I repeated. Just fun. Lora, is that how you saw it too? Was destroying our marriage just for fun? She was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. No, it wasn't like that. I thought Wade cared about me. Wade ran his hands through his hair. Look, this is all getting out of hand. Lora, you knew what this was. We both did. I'm pregnant with your baby. That's your problem, not mine. I'd seen enough. Get out. Grant, Sabrina started. All of you, get out of my house. Now. Wade was already heading for the door, clearly eager to escape. Sabrina followed him, shooting me a look of pure hatred. Lora lingered, reaching out like she wanted to touch my arm. Grant, please, I love you. I know I screwed up, but I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of having someone to take care of you. You love having a safety net, but you don't love me. I stepped back from her reaching hand. If you loved me, you never would have done this. She broke down completely then, collapsing onto my couch like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. What am I going to do? I can't raise a baby alone. I can't afford it. You should have thought of that before you got pregnant by a man who doesn't want children. But you do want children. You've always wanted to be a father. The words hit me like a physical blow. She was right. I had always wanted children. We'd spent 3 years trying, hoping, praying for a baby. And now there was going to be a baby, just not mine. Yes, I wanted children. With you. With my wife. Not with the woman who betrayed me and lied to me and planned to trick me into raising another man's child. She looked up at me with desperate eyes. I could tell people it's yours. Wade doesn't want it anyway. We could just pretend this never happened. Pretend? I stared at her in disbelief. You want me to pretend that you didn't cheat on me? Pretend that you didn't call me a loser to your friends? Pretend that you didn't plan to deceive me for the rest of my life? People make mistakes, Grant. People forgive mistakes. Some mistakes, maybe, but not this one. Not from you. I walked to the door and held it open. Goodbye, Lora. She stood up slowly, like an old woman. At the door, she turned back one more time. I'm sorry. I know you don't believe me, but I really am sorry. I believe you're sorry. Sorry you got caught. After she left, I poured myself a scotch and sat in my living room, surrounded by the evidence of 8 years of marriage. Wedding photos, vacation souvenirs, the fertility clinic brochures we'd collected during our years of trying. All of it felt like artifacts from someone else's life. My phone rang. It was my lawyer. Grant, I have some news. Wade Fuller was fired from the dental clinic this morning. Apparently, someone sent his boss copies of his text messages with Lora, along with documentation of their affair during work hours. I smiled for the first time in days. Is that so? The clinic has a strict policy against workplace relationships, especially ones involving married employees. He was terminated immediately. What about Lora? She's been placed on unpaid leave pending an investigation. Given that she's pregnant and the circumstances are complicated, they're trying to figure out how to handle it. After I hung up, I felt a grim satisfaction. This was just the beginning. Lora and Wade had humiliated me, betrayed me, and tried to trick me into a lifetime of deception. Now they were going to learn what real consequences looked like. But I wasn't finished yet. Not even close. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Murphy's pub, the local dive bar where Lora and I used to go for trivia night, when Wade walked in. He looked like hell, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt, eyes reddened from too much drinking or too little sleep. He spotted me immediately, and after a moment's hesitation, walked over to my table. Grant. He slid into the booth across from me without being invited. Wade. Heard you lost your job. His jaw tightened. You know damn well why I lost my job. Do I? Don't play dumb. Someone sent Dr. Klein those text messages. Someone who had access to phone records and knew exactly what would get me fired. I took a sip of my beer. Sounds like whoever it was did Dr. Klein a favor. I'm sure he doesn't want employees who sleep with married coworkers on company time. Wade leaned forward, his voice low and threatening. You destroyed my career over a woman who doesn't even want you anymore. I didn't destroy anything. You did that all by yourself when you decided to sleep with my wife. She came on to me, you know. Your perfect little wife was practically throwing herself at me from day one. I felt my temper flare but kept my voice level. And you, being such a stand-up guy, just couldn't resist. Can you blame me? Look at her, then look at you. She's a beautiful woman stuck with a boring accountant who probably hasn't satisfied her in years. That did it. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. The bar went quiet, other patrons turning to look at us. You want to know what's really pathetic, Wade? You're sitting here unemployed and bitter, trying to make me feel bad about losing a woman who lied to both of us. She used you for closeness and planned to use me for money. And you're so stupid, you still think you won something? Wade stood up too, his hands clenched into fists. At least I didn't get played for a fool for 8 years. No, you got played for a fool in 8 weeks. She told you the baby was yours, right? Made you feel special? Then when she needed you to step up and be a father, where were you? Telling her to get rid of it. I never promised her anything. Neither did I. But somehow I'm the bad guy for refusing to clean up your mess. The confrontation was drawing attention now. I could see people pulling out phones, probably recording what looked like it might turn into a fight. Perfect. You know what the difference is between us, Wade? I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent bar. When I made promises to Lora, I kept them. When you made a baby with her, you ran away like a coward. Wade's face went red. I didn't make any promises. You made a baby. That's a pretty big promise right there. I told her to take care of it. You told a pregnant woman to get an abortion because you were too selfish to take responsibility for your actions. And now you're mad at me because I won't take responsibility for them either. Someone in the crowd muttered, Jesus Christ. And I could see the disgust on faces around the bar. Wade seemed to realize that he was losing the room. This isn't over, he said, grabbing his jacket. Yeah, it is. I sat back down and picked up my beer. It's been over since the moment you decided you were too good to be a father to your own child. Wade stormed out, leaving me alone with a bar full of witnesses who had just heard him admit to getting a married woman pregnant and then abandoning her. I finished my beer slowly, nodding to a few regulars who came over to pat me on the back and tell me I was better off without her. By the time I got home, the story was already spreading. Small towns are like that. Gossip travels faster than news. My phone had 3 voicemails from people I barely knew, offering support and asking if the rumors were true. But the real satisfaction came the next morning when Lora called, crying hysterically. "Grant, you have to help me. Wade's leaving town. He got a job in Austin, and he's moving this weekend." Good for him. He won't return my calls. He won't even acknowledge that the baby is his. And now everyone knows what happened. I can't go anywhere without people staring at me, whispering. Welcome to consequences, Lora. I lost my job. Dr. Klein fired me yesterday. He said I violated the clinic's morality clause. I felt a cold satisfaction. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. You're enjoying this. She was right. I was enjoying it. You made your choices, Lora. You chose to have an affair. You chose to get pregnant by another man. You chose to try to trick me into raising his child. These are the natural results of those choices. I'm going to lose everything. My job, my friends, my reputation. I'll have to move back in with my parents, and they're so ashamed they won't even talk to me. You should have thought about that before you called me a loser at Sabrina's party. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. You meant it enough to plan on letting me pay for Wade's baby for 18 years. She was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was small and defeated. What do you want from me, Grant? What would it take for you to forgive me? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. This isn't about forgiveness anymore. This is about the fact that I finally see who you really are, and I don't like what I see. I'm the same person I've always been. Exactly. That's the problem. I hung up and blocked her number. 3 days later, I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved back to her parents' house in Oklahoma. Wade had indeed left for Austin without a word to anyone. And I was finally completely alone. That night, I sat in my living room with a glass of scotch, looking at the divorce papers my lawyer had filed. In 6 months, it would all be official. Lora would be out of my life forever, and I'd be free to start over. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy now. You destroyed 3 lives over your hurt pride. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending that lies were the truth. Then I deleted the message, finished my scotch, and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. The numbers had finally balanced out, and the audit was complete. Justice, I discovered, tastes a lot like satisfaction.